Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
As I've noted before in an earlier video, my grandmother passed away in 2007, and it was a big loss for our entire family. And I noted that my grandfather has a computer, uses the internet, not very frequently, certainly not as much as I think I would like to see him use it. Because I think my grandfather was one of the world's original geeks in the maybe not geek in the new hip sense of the word, I should say. My grandfather's not that old. He's old. But anyway, he was or still is, a ham operator. He's got all his equipment. In fact, hang on. I should pull this up. Last time we were in town together, well, no, maybe it wasn't the last time. My wife Ponzi took a picture of Grandpa sitting in front of my grandfather, sitting in front of his ham radio setup, and the guy. It's no wonder where I got it from. This is just great. Here, let me pull it up. I don't know. Are you guys able to see this? I may have to. Here, let me put this over here. Maybe I'll. There we go. Can you guys see this? It may be a little bright. Grandpa's over there, but he's got all his ham radio equipment here. Knobs and dials and switches, and this is what my mom grew up with. My mom grew up with it because my grandfather's been ham radioing for ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And he's still got the setup in his basement. It's so cool. So he was doing chat long before we were doing chat. So I guess I've got a soft spot for this top 5 tips as submitted by William Reagan. The top 5 tips for converting your grandmother to using today's technology. And I think by saying grandmother, you just mean someone who has not grown up with this type of technology. Maybe someone who grew up with this type of technology, and even if they would grow up with this type of technology, they would not necessarily take to newer technology as they did the old stuff. My grandfather was a television repairman, one of the first. Took a lot of courses by mail and learned that way. Repaired VCRs when they first were released. He's a gadget freak in that sense. He doesn't really take the technology so much these days. It was something different for him. So anyway, the top 5 tips for converting your grandmother or grandfather to using today's technology. One of the biggest problems we geeks have is explaining those quote-unquote complicated gadgets to folks who are not brought up in the same technology age. So here we go. Number 1, explain what the gadget does. This should be the first thing you do when instructing someone about a device. For starters, this should spark interest from the person and may cause them to pay more attention during your explanation. If they know, for instance, that they will be able to watch their favorite show or check their stocks on the internet, it gives them more incentive to learn. The older generation tends to not know what a lot of the newer gadgets are or what they do, so when you say wireless router, their head may explode. Just explain that this is a device that will allow you to watch their favorite show or to check their stocks. Maybe compare it to similar devices around the house, like a digital cable box. Before moving on, make sure the person knows the function of the device. As a side note, I don't think age really matters. I could turn to Ponzi and say wireless router, and her head will explode. So, I think that applies to everybody, most certainly. Number 2, assume this person has lived in a cave for 20 years. What I mean by this is, assume the person is totally ignorant to what you are teaching them. Make sure you explain everything. It really sucks when you have to make a trip back to the house again because you forgot to explain that the screen is blank because the monitor is not on. On a side note, if they say they know, make sure they do. Remember, everybody can get confused. If they say that you're treating them like a baby, politely say, yes, I am, because you're an infant to technology, but do so in a respectful manner. Number 3, do not include information they don't need to know. And this is a big one. For instance, if your grandmother just got her first computer and she is just going to use it to look up recipes and email, there's no need to explain to her about hard drives, processors, memory, etc. All she needs to know is how to access the information and how to exit the information, possibly how to print it. Trust me, I've run into many problems trying to explain why and way too many things at a time with people. Brains just can't handle it. So keep it simple. You'll have plenty of time, hopefully, to explain to your grandmother the ins and the outs of the PC, which will probably come when you're sent to fix the computer for the first time. Number 4, let them do it themselves. A lot of people are tactile learners and need to learn something. In order to learn something, they need to do it themselves. So, after you've done all the explaining you can do, ask them to try it. Make sure they do everything right, as this is probably the way they will do it for the rest of their lives. You think I'm lying? I'm not. If they do something wrong, start over. Do not go on for where they messed up. This will keep the order of the process correct in their head. My mom is notorious for listening to my instructions and transcribing them, writing them down step by step by step. And if you think that's easy to do, to explain to someone how to do it, yeah, try to explain to someone how to tie their own shoes. It's very difficult to do. It's very, very difficult to do. I'm sorry. It's the glow of my grandfather's head apparently it's very bright behind me. Sorry about that. Number 5, write the instructions down. This is great for older people who just seem to love to read. This should be a simple list on how to turn on, work, and turn off the device. Tell them to tape the instructions to the device, such as the back of the monitor, bottom of the DVD player, etc. This will save you many phone calls of complaining that the device won't work. This was submitted by the guy known as Smart Guy 87. I always wonder what these numbers on everybody's usernames mean. It's interesting. As I said, my grandfather's a ham radio operator. He's got a username, one of the first ones, I guess, unless you count Thag in the early Thag. You remember Thag and Thor? They used to... Any old wife. There you go. I know. Sorry, Minerva one. I was trying to make a very bad joke. I mean, it's not funny for anybody of any age. Thank you, William. Anybody else has got the top 5 list of tips to send me, whether it's related to tech or not, I'd love to see it. My email address is chris@pirillo.com. I'm not going to mention my grandfather's call sign, just because I respect his privacy, and you should too. If he wants to broadcast, he can. Anyway, if you want to stop by the chat room. By the way, I was just reading from the chat room right there, because you see they're in the screen, they're in the video. That's why I try to put everything together so I can interact with people, whether we're recording videos or not. I don't pay attention to everything that goes on. I mean, my attention span is only this long, but I am typically here in front of my desk 24 hours a day, and when I'm in the chat room. And even if I'm not here, well, there are hundreds of people who are, and they're waiting for you to stop by. Usually we talk about technology. Sometimes the conversation waxes to talking about how Chris really can't make a funny joke when he tries to make a caveman reference by using the name Thag, thinking that everybody... I'll drop it now. I'll drop it. I promise if you stop by, I won't make any stupid jokes. There are 300 people who are watching the live stream right now. You could be 301, but the first thing you got to do is open your web browser, or just open up a new tab or open up a new web browser window and surf over to our website, which is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.